Hi everybody, it's Chris Hales here, and we're embarking on take 2 of an announcement for a project which is very important for all light workers. Take 1 was interrupted actually by some information that came into one of the participants, Deb Pietsch, about making the message more precise and in fact leading out with it more strongly, which was a great suggestion. So this is take 2. Now the message that came in was very specifically to put everybody on notice that this is an opportunity for all beings of light to stand forward. We are all conduits of light, conduits of love, conduits of messages. And we have an opportunity to start really shining that light hard on the world around us to help awaken humanity. So it's a real opportunity to stand up, because what we're actually putting forward here is an event called a Counter Protocol of Light, which gives us an opportunity to significantly change the energetics on this planet and turn them in a different direction at a far greater rate than they're currently turning. Deb and Scott are friends of mine. I've known them, Scott, for 2 years, Deb for a year. We've done a lot of work together, both in the physical and energetic. Behind the scenes, they do a tremendous amount of work, as do a lot of light workers, on holding energies for the benefit of humanity. And their particular task is actually the very refined process of holding a unified field, which is actually capable of transmuting very dark energies, very high volumes, and at all times holding that field. They call it a unified field. You could call it a unity field, a field of one. You can make up any name you like for it, but it's the energies of the realm that we're headed into. Now, without too much further ado, because we really need to cut to the chase on this, the process that we're actually putting forward here is one where we are literally standing in our sovereignty and making a response real time while public satanic rituals are being carried out, whose energies would otherwise be used to literally damage the energetics of the collective, and particularly the energetic efforts of all the light workers on this planet. And without any further ado, I want to introduce Deb and Scott, because their abilities to describe this go well beyond mine, and that's the information we need to tap into for this discussion. So hello to Deb and Scott.
Hello, Chris. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us here.
And I'm not sure if you said Scott's last name yet. Scott Bartle.
Scott Bartle. Former ship's captain.
Don't worry. If anyone wants to know more about Deb's background or my background, the website shifthishappeningtv.com has our bios on there, so jump into that. But here we are, Counter Protocol of Light event. First event we're looking at is a public satanic ritual which year after year has taken place at the Super Bowl halftime show. And Deb will jump into it in a sec. Year after year, these events have been taking place. The alternative media jumps straight onto it, pulls it apart, identifies all the symbology, shows us what has been happening.
Post commentary.
Instead of letting another one of them go through and go past this year, we're going to be proactive and step in and offer a way for people to participate to neutralize those dark energies whilst it's happening and flatten that scenario. Do you want to say some more about that?
Yeah, so it's actually important for us to get into this very first part of the conversation. What we're talking about is a live ITV broadcast that everybody can participate in, and that the guidance that we have gotten, and one of the things to note is that part of my gifts is very, very clear telepathic communication with the beings of light that I've been working with for years, and now Scott and I have been working with, and Chris, you've done some work with in Mount Shasta, and others. And this event is a live event. It's called a Counter Protocol of Light event, and the intention is to create an opportunity to neutralize the energies of the first is a public satanic ritual ceremony, as Scott was saying, a Super Bowl halftime show. And so with this, the other part of this conversation is to note that we are existing and we are experiencing a level of infiltration that most people don't even know that they have. And so when we actually, since this is take 2, what started to come through when we had a little technology issue was our guides came through and said, okay, what we want to make clear to people is that we, beings of light, are having a very difficult time reaching you because of this dark energy that has encapsulated the planet, and that especially the light workers have been interfered with this infiltration energy, which I personally have been experiencing and have now learned how to clear since, but I've been experiencing it since 2005. And so one of my spiritual teachings, and now Scott's, is to teach people how to clear the infiltration energies out of the field. But the important thing to note right now is that people, especially light workers, are being interfered with in ways that they don't normally want to look at, and that they think that, you know, we have these opportunities of moving things forward, and then oftentimes what occurs is as you start to move something forward, you get pelted. And a lot of illogical things happen and are happening. And so it's important now to bring these the conversation about the energies that are conjured up during these satanic rituals and ceremonies, whether you know about them, believe them, or even focus on them.
Don't want to know about them.
Or don't want to know about them. It's happening. If you're experiencing a lack of financial resources or resources at all, if you're not in your sacred partnership, if you're experiencing like the Groundhog Day, the suspended animation of your daily life, not really moving forward, there are external things that have been conjured, energies that have been conjured up, and it's no longer in our highest good to turn a blind eye. It's really about educating ourselves and becoming aware of this from a perspective of neutrality, that we don't have judgment, fear, disgust, or emotional charges on it, but that we, from a place of education, have an awareness and a knowingness, because what our guides are saying is that people don't even know. They don't even know what they're dealing with, because these are non-physical energies.
Mm-hmm. Can I say from a place of sovereignty as well, standing in your power?
Well, and what I refer, yes, and what we refer to that is standing in our I am presence, powerfully standing in our I am presence. And when we don't, what I used to think 10 years ago was I'm only all about love and light, and being awakened in 1987 in a very conscious journey, you know, through Hollywood and all sorts of different things. Then, as I came out with teachers of very high vibration light, I got slammed. So what we're talking about are things that the three of us have even experienced in our own experiences, and so.
Well, if I can jump in there as well, for the listeners or the viewers, is what's really encouraging is more and more people are starting to come out and introduce these subjects of the satanic rituals and the energies that are directed intentionally towards others to really mess them over. We've got the likes of John Ramirez in New York, regarded as the third most powerful warlock in New York.
And then turn to, he talks a lot about Jesus, which we're not necessarily just about that. But
where I was going is there are more people starting to openly discuss the subject with evidence and their experiences. Yep. The Veterans Today team are describing satanic ritual going on.
Yep.
Chris, you mentioned before, was it Benjamin Fulford?
Benjamin Fulford, yeah. In fact, one of the things about this is the sheer size of it. I mean, there's a huge number of people involved in this. It's not just, they're not just dotted around the globe. They're highly organised. And Benjamin Fulford describes them numbering in millions
Yep.
of satanic worshippers, organised into regions, organised into little groups, doing work 24/7.
Yep.
And you before in the interim discussion between our two takes, Deb, you described the energies as like there's a dark cloud on the planet, and particularly around light workers.
Yep.
Now, one of the ways we experience this, and we experienced this as a group about 2 weeks ago, some direct interference that almost caused a group we're working with to fly apart.
Mm-hmm.
And we noted at the time it was weird. It just didn't seem to make sense that it
Illogical.
should occur, yet it did. And then we stood back and said, "Oh crap, we've just been slimed. Basically, we got a dose." When we actually, no, it wasn't directed directly at us, maybe a bit, but an individual we worked with. Okay, and this is how the interference works, and we've seen this. I'm not going to discuss any of these particular things, but in the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been some major fallings out in the alternative community, and I stand back and look at it and I say those guys are all being interfered with, all of them.
Yep.
And this is how they've been holding us back. In energetic whack-a-mole is another way to describe it. Someone's showing some light, whack. Oh, another one over there, whack.
Pop through the matrix, whack.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. It pops through the matrix. You try and unplug from the matrix, whack, and plug you back in.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way that it works. So this counter protocol that you're suggesting is to be, rather than reactive and basically let the event happen and then just comment on it afterwards, is to actually, during the event, generate energies that counter what is being attempted.
Well, let me give an example of some of these energies. And it relates specifically to the after show or the post commentary. When you look at that, some of the YouTube channels that are out there are very good examples of this. They talk about the shock of it. Oh, look at that. What an amazing event there. The tragic, look at the symbology going on there. Oh, that's all dark. And you can see there's energy being generated there. The emotional charge builds up in the viewers. And this is after the event. So where is that energy going? And so what we're talking about here is, even when we discuss the subject, a lot of light workers will say, oh, just discussing it gives it energy. I don't want to give anything energy. Now, if we can address these issues neutrally from a unemotional or a position where we're not contributing those emotional charge and energy to that situation, and we can analyze it and inspect it and go, okay, so that's what's happening. Oh, they've used that symbol. Oh, they turned the pentagram upside down. Why did they do that? It's because of this. If we can do that and inspect it on a neutral basis, you can see that we are not affected in that, nor are we contributing to the energy of what was intended within that satanic ritual. And
Can I add something else to that?
Yeah.
That this is because what we've learned is that also those rituals and ceremonies are used to harvest people's energy. That what's important to understand about that is that when you are firmly planted and proclaimed your I am presence, and that there is no abrogation of your free will happening in your field, and this is one of the things that we teach people, then you also are not allowing your energy to be harvested unknowingly as well. And that is another key element to all of this. Education and not turning a blind eye to all of this is absolutely imperative at this point.
It's as we were saying before, the light workers get the opportunity to shine their light on the subject, not in the opposite direction and pretend that that subject's not existing.
Right. And if I could also just make another point too, is that we have been taught so many things, even in the spirituality, even in the New Age movement, etc., where it is, let me just specifically what I'm referring to is like duality. We're taught to, that really what we're meant to do is create a balance of our dark and our light, and to engage with the dark. Well, that's our shadows. And what I have been taught through telepathic communication and teachings is that really what our awakening is meant to what we're meant to experience is transmuting all of that duality, all of our shadows, our fears, our anger, and coming into a singularity of light where we actually transcend duality. So when we can look at our awakening journey from a perspective also of being the conscious objective observer of our experience, we can then also look at things like the satanic ritual and the ceremonies and see, wow, from a perspective of like, okay, what's going on in that situation that's not serving me to transcend the duality? Because if I'm not willing to look at it, then that means that there's something that I have potentially some shadow about, or emotional charge, or trigger,
or fear.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because that's it. I mean, the journey. Most people, when they're doing their own inner work, will recognise they're breaking victim patterns. They're breaking patterns of fear, denial, anger, all these emotions, as you said, that don't serve. Recognising it for what it is, recognising that it's part of you and that you can make a choice about it, whether you want to experience it or not. And this is another example of the choice. As Scott said, if you won't look at it, you're in denial of something which is obviously generating an emotion in you. And you need to clear that. You need to actually work your way through it. It's part of the process. And you know, going into denial is not going to serve you in the long run. You just have to, all it does is put off the moment where you have to take a look at it and say, yeah, I actually need to do something about that. And really that's the energy with which we approach this. It's that, yes, we have a problem, Houston.
Yes.
You know, here's what we can do about it.
Well, here's where we're at before with and if I can introduce as well, one of the things that we are looking at is having experts on a panel within this broadcast during the Super Bowl halftime show.
And can I just add that Super Bowl is the first, then the Grammy Awards, and then there's the next after that. So
to have some experts who really know their stuff on symbology to be able to describe what is being performed. For example, okay, what's this symbol mean? How does that affect us? What's that being used for? Okay, and that sort of thing. Now, one of the things that we want to look at here is purely from the neutral perspective of what is going on with the energies. We're not getting into religion or politics or that sort of thing. It's as if we're just looking at it energetically. If I can just share a little bit about an analogy I like to use with Dr. Emoto.
Oh, this is very important.
Who unfortunately has just passed away not so long ago. What's important here is he demonstrated scientifically that people's thoughts and intentions can affect and change matter or reality. Now, for example, he was able to show with two glass jars of water from the same source, one jar with the words hate written on it, and one with the words love written on it, had a completely different effect or manifested reality when the water was snap frozen and viewed under a microscope. The water that was in the jar that said hate had an ice crystal that looked like, and we'll show it on screen, had an ice crystal that was deformed and damaged and just really ugly. Now contrast that to the ice crystal that was from the water that had love written on it. Now if you look at that as to what that looks like, we'll show that on screen as well. That was a very beautiful representation of a snowflake. And the contrast was absolutely incredible. Now given that we're 70-odd% water, and Mother Earth is 70-odd% water, imagine what effect that happens when we start playing with the energetics, or if you like, the label on our forehead of what the energetic state is within our bodies. Now, the example I like to use with this is, let's just say a group of Satanists got around and decided to perform a ritual on the town's water supply where you lived. You don't need to know about that ritual, believe in its effectiveness, or even whether you wanted to know about it. The effect that those Satanists performing that ritual actually had on that water, as Dr. Emoto showed, would scientifically affect the water You snap freeze that water and look at it under the microscope, it's going to be very different to water that exists in an environment of high vibration, love, joy, happiness, that sort of thing. That water is going to flow downstream and be drunk by those people in that village, whether they have their eyes closed to it, or they don't want to know about it, or don't believe it. That water is still going to flow down into their houses. So it is a real phenomenon, and this is what we're addressing with this counter protocol of light.
And if I could actually add to what you're saying, and I think that that example is so profound because of the scientific aspects of it, is that this is also an opportunity for us to, again, broaden our viewpoint, broaden our perspective, start connecting the dots in ways that a lot of people don't actually connect the dots. Because it's important for us to understand we are existing right now on the planet in early 2015, where we are we refer to two things. One is that there's been a very proactive, designed assault against humanity's awakening, and it's been implemented. It's been quite effective, and this is another opportunity to address really where we're at, because humanity's at a choice point right now. And things are coming to such a tipping point. And the other aspect is that we're living in a deception enslavement matrix. And that's the other thing that we are supporting and teaching people, to unplug and to transcend that. But to look at the energetics of all the deception. And these public ceremonies, just as a starter, not even the ones that are done behind the scenes, but the public ceremonies are deceptive. They are utilizing, such as like the Super Bowl, 30 million plus people and abrogating their free will to actually conjure energies and to
use them, utilize
in
them.
sinister ways. Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
When you go along and buy your ticket for the Super Bowl, the information doesn't say, oh, by the way, you will actually be asked if you would like to choose or like to participate in contributing your energy through a demonic entity who has possessed the star performer. And
such as Beyonce and Sasha Fierce.
Who admittedly claims that she was possessed, and some of the photos
are
pretty confirmatory.
Pretty confirmatory.
Yeah.
And at this event, we'll be sending these energies, channeling them through the celebrity as a conduit through to a dark agenda. I just thought you'd like to know that. That's the fine print for your ticket.
That's the underlying show that's actually going on.
Right.
So if you didn't get that little memo, then where is your consent in that? Where is the disclosure of the participation in such a ritual? And that's really where the abrogation of your free will is going on, because you haven't been informed. Sure enough, you might have been invited by the celebrity who's up there that says, let me feel your energy, put your arms out towards me, I want to feel your energy.
That's what Beyonce actually said in 2013.
You can go back and see the recording of the words she actually used. And you might say, well, she did say, let me, as an invitation. And how many people in that audience are completely clueless to the aspect that their energy as creator beings is being channeled to a dark agenda? And given the opportunity down the track of finding that information out, how many people would say, well, if I'd known what was going on there, I would not have contributed to that.
Right.
Exactly.
How many people have been conned?
Yeah, exactly. And even looking at the game itself, the way that we've all experienced the energetics of being in a sports stadium where a really important match is going down, the sheer energy of it, add this performance in the middle of it
to adrenaline.
Whoosh, it's an incredible amount of human energy.
Yeah.
And I've been in a stadium of 100,000 people. In fact, I've had two experiences in a big stadium. One was quite unique because it was a draw. It went, whoosh, I know what it feels like, because I've also been in the same size audience where it was a great game, right?
Right.
Huge energies they're dealing with here, and they know it. They're well organized. There's lots of them. They are working very diligently to an outcome. We, on the other hand, have the best of intentions, but because we're spinning our wheels, because this process has been in place so long, it's been so difficult, we're not as effective as we could be. And this program gives us an opportunity, because I just want to draw people's attention. There's a calendar of events throughout the year publicly that we can actually do this on, and the amount of information it can spread will be tremendous, phenomenal.
What's also important to note is we're not saying that this is the only way to do this. We're raising this to people's awareness, such that if you are in the alternative media or conscious and aware of what's going on, you might have your own way to neutralize the effect of these energies. So go for it. Get creative and think of ways that you can actually come together, unite your audience, and hopefully we all come together and share the same principle of neutralizing these dark energies. And instead of them being put out there to, again, mess up the water supply, if you wanted to use that analogy, that we actually cleanse the water supply so that we all prosper. That's
Exactly.
We could probably all agree on that.
Exactly. Now, the other thing too is that we're upholding natural law here, universal law, law of one. Doesn't matter what you call it. You have the right of free will choice. So if you know if you have your own ideas, as Scott said, about your own protocol for neutralizing the energy, you don't have to participate in what you guys want to put forward, what I'm helping you put forward here, because I think it's a fantastic idea and it's something we need to do. It's up to you. If you want to engage with it, fantastic. What we ask you to do, though, is engage with the information that's being provided, because we're going to be pulling in some really amazing people to really get down to the nuts and bolts of what's going on here. As you said, in a neutral way, in a non-fearful way, just here's what they actually do. Because it leads to, they're not just fooling around in the entertainment industry with some singers.
No.
They're playing with the actors. They're playing with most major TV stars, politicians, people in the financial industry, different methodologies all the way through. Same trick.
One of the subjects that we're going to start talking about in regards to this is the conspiracy to disempower the divine feminine. And this goes all the way from the macrocosm of Mother Earth, the destroying of Mother Earth, which is Mark Passio. If you're as a listener or viewer of this, if you haven't seen any of Mark Passio's work, he was a priest in the Church of Satan, and he now, through his own journey and experiences, speaks very, very beautifully and very openly about what the intentions are, and what the and how what they're thinking, what they're thinking and teaching is. So one of them is the basically to destroy Terra, which Terra he refers to as, which is Earth, and then the war on terror that has been created. So Mother Earth is the macrocosm, and then we look at it and we take it down, because what we are committed to is what evidence is showing up in my life. What am I experiencing? And so when we take it down from the macrocosm into the microcosm, that the divine feminine is being disempowered, not only the female gender, but also in you guys, the feminine, the emotional.
The feminine aspect.
Exactly.
And distortion of archetypes for both sexes, absolutely.
Absolutely, exactly. And it's wreaking havoc with our everyday lives. And when you start to connect the dots and you see how much these energies are infiltrating every aspect of our lives, I don't know why you wouldn't at that point want to educate yourself and learn the tools necessary to actually become what my guide started referring to a few years ago with me, is to be an untouchable. And I just would like to add one more thing. in regards to my own experience, and you guys both know this about me. One is I will not go out and teach or talk about anything that I haven't had personal experience in, and the evidence of being able to transform the experience or to create let's say, a different reality or whatnot. When I first started having the telepathic communications from my guides in 2010 about this infiltration, I seriously was, what the fuck? Excuse my language, but I was all about love and light. And I really thought that if I just, on my journey of, at that point, 20 plus years, just focused on love and light, that's what I was going to encounter and experience. But because of the added asset that I have of very, very clear telepathic communication, I was able to receive the messages in real time. When I was engaged in conversation, my guides would say, "You're being tracked, shut down that communication." And I was like, what? So it was through the evolution of those kinds of communications that I was able to develop what we now have available to us, one aspect of tools, to be able to stand powerfully in our I Am presence and to clear our field. And to not have emotional charges about this and really look at this subject.
Or be a victim.
Or be a victim, absolutely.
Oh, poor me.
Yes.
All these dark guys out there, oh.
Exactly. See, this is not a permanent situation. This will pass.
And we will see this.
This is us pushing our way through the last piece of major resistance, because there's been a lot of progress in the financial scene and the political scene, we're actually focusing on interference that we're experiencing in our lives here a lot of the time. The interference is across the board. All of the effects of the if you want to look at the matrix itself, what we say the matrix, I view the matrix as being that aspect of the system which has been deceptively inserted to control us.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's all interference, and it's all the same thing. You know, that we're going to be starting at the visible tip of the iceberg with these public displays, and even the Academy Awards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so many, even performances by individual singers, for instance, at major festivals can be looked. You go, well, what's going on there? You know, some of the things that Miley Cyrus has done in the last year is a case in point.
Yeah.
It just, whoa, what's going on there? So yeah, I'm totally in favour of bringing this information forward in the most neutral and useful way for everybody, and offer people the opportunity to engage proactively and really get to the heart of the matter without fear. Show that this is something we need to do. Just one final point. We talked about going into denial on our shadow aspects, and one of the perspectives I have on the responses of a lot of light workers to this is when they go into denial, I hope that they recognize that we also have clearing to do at the collective level, and this is clearing at the collective level, at the finest tip.
Absolutely.
Where the collective is comprised of a large number of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts with each individual.
Yep.
Now, I like what you said there, Chris. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're looking at interference being an element where external energies or entities are directing darkness, sinister agenda, fear, harm, all sorts at you. That's just one element. That's just one tendency that we describe and encounter in some of the teachings that we've got on the website. It is perhaps one of the most important insofar as there seems to be, it's really encouraging to see more and more people starting to come out and talk about that sort of thing.
Yep. With veterans today.
Exactly.
And
security briefings going on at levels of world leaders describing satanic symbology and rituals going on. So that sort of stuff is now starting to hit public mainstream thing. And this event that we're looking at, again, is only a public ritual. We're not even getting into what's behind closed doors, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's huge. It is huge. And as I say, this is part of the clearing. even, you know, there are lots of deceptions in politics that are hanging, that's energy hanging in key institutions that we interact with, like the banking system. So much deception going on there. That's going to be cleared away. This is one other thing to be cleared away, and we just stand up and we look at it and we face it and we sort it out.
And
it's part of this process.
Exactly. And another aspect of this particular situation, we said in the earlier part of the conversation that this isn't a focus necessarily on religion or politics. That one aspect of this focus is the abrogation of our free will. And one of the questions to ask yourself is, what is your relationship with free will? How often do you even think about, well, that's an abrogation of my free will? We assume so many aspects of this journey is in alignment with truth and honesty, etc. And how the other question then is, what is your relationship with owning your free will? And you
Exactly.
referred to this, Chris. We talk about sovereignty. What is our relationship with owning our free will? And that is where we're at as a collective humanity, as a choice point, to stand and proclaim, this is a planet of love, this is a planet of free will, and I, for one, am willing to stand in my power of love, I stand in my power of light, and I will not accept anything less than, this is a planet of love, this is a planet of free will, for everyone that chooses that, or hopefully becomes
Exactly.
aware of that.
And so the invitation for this event really is for similar, like-minded people to come together who choose that sort of thing.
Okay, we're back again. Had a few technical problems, had to do a quick edit, and resuming the conversation where we left off, which was referring to the fact that no matter how you play out this conversation, it leads back to standing in your power again, assuming the role of a sovereign. Now, I've always said sovereignty's a verb, not a noun. And this opens the door wide open for people to understand where the rubber hits the road with their sovereignty, to actually really embody the fact that when you do step into that power, it changes things.
Very much so.
That's our ability to actually be manifesting co-creators, to manifest. And the whole process we're going to go through always leads to the discussion of us standing in our power, which I love, because as you guys know, but not that many people out there know, I've been working on describing what I feel sovereignty is most of this very quiet year that I've had. And I know that this is going to come into play as these discussions unfold. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect of it. And Deb, you wanted to make a statement too about the nature of the energetics and the choices people have to engage or not.
Actually,
okay. Being a football game, I think the ball's been handed over to me for that.
And one thing I would like to say, Scott was going to share about that. One thing I would just like to say in regards to what you were just talking about is that when we refer to standing in our power and being in our I am presence, that there is an alchemical, transformational shift that we are all meant to be experiencing, and that is part of what has been interfered with. So it's a beingness. It's not just a logical talking about it. It is an actual alchemical shift and transformation, like the metamorphosis of that caterpillar who's chomping on that leaf and decides to spin into a cocoon to go through 100% liquefaction. DNA transformation occurs for that butterfly to come out of that cocoon. So
it's such a it's an amazingly very all-encompassing discussion, this one. The tip of this iceberg we're playing with leads directly about a discussion of who we are and what we are and what we can be. So it just is something. It's a process that just has to take place, which is why I'm really happy to be having this conversation. And Scott, you wanted to talk a little about the
We're just going to say
the way the energetics will be rolled out from your perspective?
Probably the general format of the shows, probably because we're going to be broadcasting at the same time as the Super Bowl show. Halftime show, obviously halftime, that's when the energy work, you could say in inverted commas, is going to take place. Now, we're not going to get into and describe that at this point, other than to say that at every step of the way it will be by invitation, as in it will be your choice to participate, your choice to take on the concepts that we're offering. We're not ramming them down anyone's throat to say you have to believe this. It is offered for their participation, and if you choose not to agree with a specific way we phrase something, block it out. This is what we're doing in the big picture, is encouraging people to be able to block out and reject and reflect back those energies that are being directed at them that are not serving your choice at that moment.
Or resonate.
Yeah, that's another way of saying it. So that's going to be the broad format. We'll discuss some of the energies that have been at play, some of the symbology involved. Halftime we'll get into doing some energy work to neutralize that, those satanic rituals and the sinister.
The one thing I'd like just to add to that is that if you haven't engaged with any of the work that we do, it's rather potent, it's experiential, it's interactive, it's verbal, and 9 times out of 10 with the activation energy and the what we're doing, it is, you actually have profound alchemical transformations.
Mm-hmm.
But what Scott's saying is that every step of the way is an encouragement also for you to check in what resonates, what doesn't, that you step into your free will, that you're empowered, and you just don't give your power over because we are, and other people are spiritual teachers or whatever, that this is a big part of it as well.
So I suppose for more information as to where you can find out more, we've set up a website that will take you directly to the landing page for that. It's called www.counterprotocolsoflightevents.com.
And our regular website
is www.shifthishappeningtv.com, and make sure you get the F in the word shift. Otherwise, you get yourself
into a strange website somewhere on the internet.
That's got nothing to do with us.
It's got nothing to do with you guys.
So we also encourage people to go and check out that Counter Protocol of Light events page, at the very least to register, and then we also have set up an IM chat, and people can begin even communicating, etc. And also, just a reminder that we'll have experts as part of our panel, and that this is a very unique opportunity for us to proactively engage as a collective to neutralize the energies of the ceremony, the sinister intent, etc., and to further engage with our transformational experience proactively.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. And also you reaching out to members of the alternative media as well. And this is only the first of a whole series of interviews that are going to take place not just before the Super Bowl, but really throughout the year as this whole block of energy and information comes forward to everybody.
There's a lot of knowledgeable people out there.
Yes, definitely.
They're awesome. Absolutely awesome. So, and this is where we all get to work together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's an opportunity for us to really recognize that we can step above anything. There isn't anything that they can put in front of us that we can't step above it. We just have to lift our perspective and be the observer, as you said, and stand in our power.
And proactively engage. And thank you, Chris, for your time.
Thank you guys for your time, Mr. Scott Bartle and Ms. Deborah Pietsch. It's been a pleasure as always, and we hope we'll be talking soon.
Fantastic.
Bye for now. Cheers. Humanity and their particular their particular task is actually the very refined process of holding a unified field, which is actually capable of transmuting very dark energies, very high volumes, and at all times holding that field. They call it a unified field. You could call it a unity field, a field of one. You can make up any name you like for it, but it's the energies of the realm that we're headed into. Now, without too much further ado, because we really need to cut to the chase on this, the process that we're actually putting forward here is one where we are literally standing in our sovereignty and making a response real time while public satanic rituals are being carried out, whose energies would otherwise be used to literally damage the energetics of the collective, and particularly the energetic efforts of all the light workers on this planet. And without any further ado, I want to introduce Deborah and Scott, because their abilities to describe this go well beyond mine, and that's the information we need to tap into for this discussion. So, hello to Deborah and Scott.
Hello, Chris. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us here.
And I'm not sure if you said Scott's last name yet, Scott Bartle.
Scott Bartle, former ship's captain.
Don't worry, if anyone wants to know more about Deb's background or my background...
A lot of illogical things happen and are happening. And so it's important now to bring these the conversation about the energies that are conjured up during these satanic rituals and ceremonies, whether you know about them, believe them, or even focus on them.
Don't want to know about them.
Or don't want to know about them. It's happening. If you're experiencing a lack of financial resources or resources at all, if you're not in your sacred partnership, if you're experiencing like the Groundhog Day, the suspended animation of your daily life, not really moving forward, there are external things that have been conjured, energies that have been conjured up, and it's no longer in our highest good to turn a blind eye. It's really about educating ourselves and becoming aware of this from a perspective of neutrality, that we don't have judgment, fear, disgust, or emotional charges on it, but that we, from a place of education, have an awareness and a knowingness, because what our guides are saying is that people don't even know. They don't even know what they're dealing with, because these are non-physical energies.
Can I say from a place of sovereignty as well, standing in your power?
Well, and what I refer, yes, and what we refer to that is standing in our I am presence, powerfully standing in our I am presence. And when we don't, what I used to think 10 years ago was I'm only all about love and light, and being awakened enough.
Hi everybody, it's Chris Hales here, and we're embarking on tape 2 of an announcement for a project which is very important for all light workers. Take 1 was interrupted actually by some information that came into one of the participants, Pietsch, about making the message more precise and in fact leading out with it more strongly, which was a great suggestion. So this is take 2. Now the message that came in was very specifically to put everybody on notice that this is an opportunity for all beings of light to stand forward. We are all conduits of light, conduits of love, conduits of messages. And we have an opportunity to start really shining that light hard on the world around us to help awaken humanity. So it's a real opportunity to stand up, because what we're actually putting forward here is an event called a Counter Protocol of Light, which gives us an opportunity to significantly change the energetics on this planet and turn them in a different direction at a far greater rate than they're currently turning. Deb and Scott are friends of mine. I've known them, Scott, for 2 years, Deb for a year. We've done a lot of work together, in both in the physical and energetic, behind the scenes, they do a tremendous amount of work, as do a lot of light workers, on holding energies for the benefit of.
Our website, shifthappeningtv.com, has our bios on there, so jump into that. But here we are, Counter Protocol of Light event. First event we're looking at is a public satanic ritual which year after year has taken place at the Super Bowl halftime show. And Deborah will jump into it in a sec. Year after year, these events have been taking place. The alternative media jumps straight onto it, pulls it apart, identifies all the symbology, shows us what has been happening.
Post commentary.
Instead of letting another one of them go through and go past this year, we're going to be proactive and step in and offer a way for people to participate, to neutralize those dark energies whilst it's happening and flatten that scenario. Do you want to say some more about that?
Yeah, so it's actually important for us to get into this very first part of the conversation. What we're talking about is a live ITV broadcast that everybody can participate in, and that the guidance that we have gotten, and one of the things to note is that part of my gifts is very, very clear telepathic communication with the beings of light that I've been working with for years, and now Scott and I have been working with, and Chris, you've done some work with in Mount Shasta, and others. And this event is a live event. It's called a Counter Protocol of Light event, and the intention is to create an opportunity to neutralize the energies of the first is a public satanic ritual ceremony, as Scott was saying, a Super Bowl halftime show. And so with this, the other part of this conversation is to note that we are existing and we are experiencing a level of infiltration that most people don't even know that they have. And so when we actually, since this is take two, what started to come through when we had a little technology issue with our guides came through and said, okay, what we want to make clear to people is that we, beings of light, are having a very difficult time reaching you because of this dark energy that has encapsulated the planet, and that especially the light workers have been interfered with this infiltration energy, which I personally have been experiencing and have now learned how to clear since, but I've been experiencing it since 2005. And so one of my spiritual teachings, and now Scott's, is to teach people how to clear the infiltration energies out of the field. But the important thing to note right now is that people, especially light workers, are being interfered with in ways that they don't normally want to look at, and that they think that, you know, we have these opportunities of moving things forward, and then oftentimes what occurs is as you start to move something forward, you get pelted.